G'day guys, my name's Dave and welcome to another Guitar Zero to Hero song tutorial. In this lesson, I'm going to teach you how to play Too Sweet by Hozier, which is a great tune. Now I'm going to teach you two different ways of playing this song in this lesson. The first way is a simplified version on the acoustic guitar with some chords and strumming, and the second method is the studio version on the electric guitar, and that's in the second half of the video. For the simplified version, we'll need a capo on the 3rd fret of our guitar. If you want to master your chords back to front, then be sure to head over to guitarzerotohero.com to pick up my free guitar ebook. Finally, this lesson simply teaches you one song, but if really understanding and learning the guitar is something you've always wanted to do but you didn't know where to start, then check out the Guitar Zero to Hero Premium course and membership, which gives you all the guidance to play with confidence. The link is in the description below. Let's jump into the lesson. Okay, so let's start off with an easy way of playing this with some chords and strumming. So for this easy version, there's just 3 chord progressions that we need to learn, and then the whole song is just comprised of those. Let's start with the first chord progression, which is used in the intro. And we're going to start with an E minor chord. I'm just going to use my index and middle finger on the 2nd frets of the 5th and 4th strings here. So that's going to be played for 1 bar. Now let's talk about a suggested strumming pattern that you can use throughout the verses. Now it's an all down strum strumming pattern at 8th notes. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you can play it simply like that, but if you want, you could also accent the 2 and the 4 beats, which means on those beats, you can play them a little louder. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and for all those other beats, you just focus on the top 2 or 3 strings of the chord, and on the 2 and the 4, you strum the whole chord. Let's leave the strumming pattern there for now. I'll add some refinements to it later. For the second bar, we have E minor to D/F sharp. So the D/F sharp, you can play it in 2 different ways, with your D chord and your thumb reaching over the top to hit the 2nd fret of the 6th string, or you can just use your index and middle fingers on the 2nd frets of the 6th and 3rd strings and ring finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and just strum up to the 2nd string. For this particular bar, we change chords on the 3 beat, so half a bar each, and that will sound like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Then we go to a G chord for 1 full bar. And for the final bar, we continue on with the G chord for another half bar, but then we go to an A minor and then a C/B. So from the A minor, take your middle finger up to the 2nd fret of the 5th string, and you can lift your ring finger here. And if you happen to mute the 4th string, that's okay. We are really just focusing on that 2nd fret of the 5th string as a passing note. Now that A minor and the C/B are on the 3 and 4 beats, so 3 and 4 and that's where we're going to change chords there. So the final bar, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that's it for the first line of chords, which sounds like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... For the second line of chords, we're going to a C for 2 full bars, then a D, and then a B7 for 1 full bar. So for the B7, middle ring and pinky finger all on the 2nd frets of the 5th, 3rd, and 1st strings, and your index finger will go on the 1st fret of the 4th string. So that's B7, and we just want to strum from the 5th string onwards. And that's it for progression 1, which will sound like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now, one thing you can do to refine that strumming pattern even further during the verses where it's a bit more stripped back is to add palm muting. So to do that, take the fleshy bit of your palm, rest it lightly on the edge of the bridge, and that way, when you strike the strings, you'll get that nice muted sound. Now, when we palm mute, we just want to really focus on the top 2 or 3 strings of our chord, the heavier strings. We don't need to strum all the strings of the chord when we're palm muting. Just focus on the lower notes. And we can apply the accents as well, where you're going to strum a little bit harder on the 2 and the 4 beat. So with palm muting, the first chord progression would sound like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4, 2 and 3 and 4, 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now, one other strumming pattern I like to use during the choruses is just a constant down, up, down, up, down, up strumming pattern at eighth notes. And again, I accent the 2 and the 4 beat to emphasize the snare there. So that will sound like this with this progression. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 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 2 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So that's it for chord progression 1. Now for chord progression 2, it's basically the same, except we're changing the last 2 chords. Instead of a D and B7, we're playing a G and then down to D/F sharp. So the second line of chords for progression number 2 will just sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 2 and 3 and 4. And finally, progression number 3 is the same as progression 2, except instead of going to a D/F sharp, we go to a B7. So it's G and then B7. So just minor changes to each of those progressions there. Now let's actually talk about the song structure and what each song section actually uses. So for the intro, we're using progression 1. For the verse, we have progression 1, and then we also have progression 2. So there's effectively 4 lines of chords here. The pre-chorus has progression 1, and then for chorus 1, we have progression number 3, and then progression number 1. The break after chorus 1 is just the same as progression 2. And then for chorus 2 in the bridge, it's basically just the opposite of the verse. So we have chord progression 2 first, and then chord progression 1. And then finally the chorus or the outro is simply just progression number 2. And that's everything you need to know for this easy version of 2 Sweet. If you want to see the structure and all the chord progressions in context, then skip to the playthrough at the end of this lesson. But now let's jump into the studio version with the electric guitar. Okay, so for this studio version, we're going to get our guitar into drop D tuning. So for that, we'll just need to take our low E down to a D note. So once we get our E to a D, we're good to go. Now I have a feeling that the guitar in the studio recording, all the strings might have been taken down a full step, but you can absolutely play this just by detuning the low E string by itself. So the studio version isn't too tricky. There's just 2 main riffs that we need to learn, and then chorus 1, which is a little bit different to those main riffs, and that's pretty much it for the whole song. Now in terms of tone, I'm just using a mid-gain sort of amp, so like a crunch amp. I've got the gain sort of set to medium, and I'm using my neck pickup here, and I've got some reverb on it. If you want the Boss Katana tone patches to this, I'll leave them in the link in the description. So let's start with riff 1, which is used in the intro. Now I'm going to start this on the end beat after the 1, so it doesn't actually come in on the 1 beat. So it starts on the end beat after the 1, where we hit the 3rd fret of the 6th string, and then go up to the 5th fret. So 1 and 2. After we hit the 5th fret, we want to quickly release our fretting hand so we get that sort of staccato sound. We don't want these notes to fully ring into one another, and that's what you'll see in the notation below as well. That little symbol means a rest, meaning that you want to cut that note off for an 8th note. So 1 and 2 and. On the 3 beat, we hit that note again, and then another pause, but this time for a full beat. And on the end beat after the 4, we pick it back up with another pluck of the 5th string and another pluck on the 1 beat of the next bar. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, and then we're going to pluck again on the 2 beat, another rest, and we'll then hit the open 5th string 4 times, 3 and 4 and in total for the first 2 bars, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now the 3rd and the 4th bar have pretty much the same rhythm and timing as the 1st and 2nd bar. So the rhythm is identical, it's just the notes that are a little bit different. So our first note is the 1st fret of the 5th string here. And that's, again, not played on the 1 beat, it starts on the end beat after the 1. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and. And at the end of the 4th bar, we go up to the 3rd fret for 2 plucks, and then 5th fret for 2 plucks. So 3rd and 4th bar, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and in total for the first line of tab, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. For the second line of tab, we go down to the 1st fret of the 6th string. And the rhythm starts off a similar way for the first bar and a half, but it's just the end that changes a little bit. So the first little bit, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and... At the end of this second bar, we're not plucking on the 3 and 4 beat. We're just going to pluck on the end 4 beat with this same note. All right, so we just stay on this note the whole time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... For the third bar, we go up to the 3rd fret of the 6th string. We're going to start off with a similar rhythm. So starting again on the end beat after the 1, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... But on the 4th bar, we're going to then go to the open 6th string, hit that on the 1 beat, on the 2 beat, and then the 3 and beat. So 1 and 2 and 3 and... So the 3rd and 4th bar, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and you can mute that by just touching it after you've played it with your fretting hand. So 1 and 2 and 3 and like that. So that's the main riff that we use in a lot of the song. Now, one other thing that we can add to this picking to make it sound even better is a little bit of palm muting. So take the fleshy bit of your palm and rest it lightly on the edge of the bridge. Too far in and your notes aren't going to ring out at all. So it needs to be right on the edge and you'll get that really nice muted sound. And altogether, the main riff. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Let's now take a look at the variation to that riff. And it's pretty simple. Everything is identical except the 3rd and the 4th bars in the second line of tab. So instead of going to the 3rd fret of the 6th string, we're going to go up to the 1st fret of the 5th string, and that's going to be played with the same rhythm that we had with the 3rd fret of the 6th string. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... For the 4th bar, there's a slight change here. It's the same rhythm as the 3rd bar, but we're now hitting the open 5th string. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... All right, so from the second line of tab altogether, I'll play this variation. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... So that's a variation to the main riff. And I'll talk about where these are actually played in a moment. Let's just learn the final piece of the puzzle first for this main guitar, and then we'll piece it all together in a moment. So the final piece of the puzzle is chorus number 1, which actually differs to the rest of the song because the riff, although very similar, actually starts on the 1 beat for every bar. We don't have instances where we're starting on the end beat after 1 with the riff. So there's 4 lines of tab here for chorus 1. So we're going to start on the 1 beat with the 5th fret of the 6th string. So 1 and we're actually going to mute on the 2 beat. So this is held out a little longer than it usually would have been in the other riffs as well. And we're going to pluck this 5th fret again on the end beat after 2 and the 3 beat. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... The second bar is almost the same, except on the 4 beat, instead of doing a rest, we go to the open 5th string. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... For the 3rd bar, it's the same rhythm as the 1st bar, but we're playing the 1st fret of the 5th string. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... And then for the 4th bar, we start off with this 1st fret for the first 2 plucks. So 1 and 2 and... But then we go up to the 3rd fret and 5th on the 3 and the 4 beat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... The first line of tab in total. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... For the second line of tab, we are moving our ring finger up to the 6th fret of the 5th string. We have the same rhythm in the first bar of the first line of tab. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Second bar, same rhythm again, but on the 4 beat, we go up to the 8th fret. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... The 3rd bar here is the same as the 3rd bar in the first line of tab. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Then for the 4th bar, we go up to the 5th fret of the 5th string. We're going to pluck that on the 1 beat, end beat after the 2 and the 3 beat. And then on the 4 beat, we go up to the 4th fret of the 4th string. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and the second line of tab in total. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and Now the third line of tab is identical to the first line of tab, and then for the fourth line of tab, we're starting off the same way with the 6th fret, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. For the second bar, we play the 6th fret the whole time, even on the 4 beat, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then we go up to the 8th fret here for the third bar, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and the fourth bar is the same as the fourth bar in the second line of tab, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that's it for the chorus, which differs a tiny bit to the other main riffs, and that will sound like this in total. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 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 2 and 3 and 4 and... Okay, so those are all the main rhythm parts. Let's talk about the structure now and how we can piece that together. So the intro uses the main riff. Then for the verse, we have the main riff for the first 2 lines of tab. And for the third and fourth lines of tab, it's the riff variation. The pre-chorus is the same as the main riff. And then we have chorus 1, which differs to the main riffs. Then there's a break after the first chorus, which is the same as the riff variation. There's another verse and pre-chorus. Then we get to chorus number 2, which is also the same as the bridge. And the structure of this is just the opposite of the verse. So we start off with the riff variation, and then we play the main riff. And then finally there's chorus number 3, which is also kind of the outro, and that is just the riff variation. Now in the break and from the second chorus onwards, I actually use a slightly different tone as well. I've added an octave fuzz pedal to my tone, which thickens it up a little bit and has that sort of buzzsaw sort of sound to it. Again, the link to that tone patch is in the description below. Now, the final thing I'll teach you is the overdubbed guitar in the pre-chorus. We're gonna partially play a G minor bar chord here, so ring and pinky fingers on the 5th frets, and our index finger barring across the 3rd fret on the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st strings. We're gonna start by picking the 5th, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings. We're gonna hold that out, and then we're going to pluck the 5th, 4th, 3rd, and 1st strings, but pluck that 1st string and hammer your pinky finger onto the 5th fret, and then lift it and end with that 3rd fret. So that will sound like this. Then we're gonna do something similar up at this B flat shape. So just shift your ring and pinky fingers up to the 8th fret, middle finger on the 7th fret of the 3rd, and index on the 6th fret of the 2nd string. Pluck the same notes to start, so 5th, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd. And then the next bar, we're going to pluck 5th, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd, but then take our pinky finger and hammer onto the 8th fret here. And then lift it and pluck that 6th fret of the 2nd string. So. Then for the second line of tab, we're going to get into this shape here. So it's a C caged chord shape. Pinky finger on the 6th fret of the 5th string, ring on the 5th fret of the 4th, index on the 3rd fret of the 3rd, and middle finger on the 4th fret of the 2nd. We're just going to pluck the 5th, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings and do that twice. For the next bar, we shift this shape up exactly 2 frets. So we're playing an F chord here. Then we're going to go to a D7 bar chord like this. So index finger barring the 5th fret, and then ring and pinky on the 7th frets of the 4th and 2nd string. And we're going to pluck these middle 4 strings. So the pre-chorus in total. And those are all the parts you need to learn for this song. So now I'll be doing 2 playthroughs of the song. The first playthrough will be the simplified version. The second playthrough will be the studio version. A big thanks to my friend Eric for lending his vocals to these playthroughs. Feel free to play these back as many times as you'd like to practice, play along to, and see how you go.
said I'm an early bird. It's 10 o'clock before I say a word. Baby, I can never tell. How do you sleep so well? You keep telling me to live right, to go to bed before the daylight. But then you wake up for the sunrise. You know you don't gotta pretend. Baby, now and then you just wanna wake up. Is it late? Smelling like a bonfire, lost in a haze. If you're drunk on life, babe, I think it's great. But while in this world, I think I'll take my whiskey neat, my coffee black and my belly free. You're too sweet for me. You're too sweet for me. I take my whiskey neat, my coffee black and my belly free. You're too sweet for me. You're too sweet for me. I ain't low, I ain't true, and the ground's where I go. I work late where I'm free from the phone, and the job gets done. But you worry some, I know, but who wants to live forever, babe? You treat your mouth as if it's heaven's gate. The rest of you like you're the TSA. I wish I could go along. Babe, don't get me wrong. You know you're bright as the morning, soft as the rain. Sweet as the vibe, sweet as the grape. If you can see it better, maybe I'll wait until that day. I'd rather take my whiskey neat, my coffee black and my belly free. You're too sweet for me. You're too sweet for me. I take my whiskey neat, my coffee black and my belly free. You're too sweet for me. You're too sweet for me. I'll take my whiskey neat, my coffee black and my belly free. You're too sweet for me. You're too sweet for me.
Thanks so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this lesson, then I know you'll absolutely love these other lessons too. So hit the link here. Or if you want to grab a copy of my free guitar ebook, then head over to guitarzerotohero.com or click the link here. Thanks so much, and I'll see you guys next time on Guitar Zero to Hero. Cheers.